This is Joe Leigh here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by Dave Coldwell. Actually, before we start, we're not going to talk about the fights this weekend because I don't know when it's going to go out. So, right, we'll start again. Joe Leigh here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by Dave Coldwell. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Not bad at all.
Now, obviously, not so long ago, we saw Jordan Gill with a thrilling knockout at the O2. I was there that night. I saw your reaction. It was priceless. Let's go straight onto that. It was fantastic. What a moment. And obviously, the tactics coming from yourself.
Listen, it's the work that Jordan puts in the gym that paid off, because it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a case of, I don't know, he just props him on ropes. He's done that time after time. You can ask him yourself. You can ask all my fighters. What we saw on there, on that night, is what he's very, very good at. He's very, very good at, exceptional at. And it didn't do him justice on TV as what it does when you're on that side of the ropes and you see it. His defence was immaculate, really was. He was getting caught with 1 out of 10 shots. And that was what was very important for me was when because I didn't know both ears had gone, but when one ear's gone, he's clear thinking, he's very, very alert. You can watch him in the corner, he's fainting, he's twitching, he's very alert at what he's doing. Now, if he's not alert and he's a bit groggy, then yeah, you're going to pull him out. But I had to give him, it's a European title fight. You've got Eddie Hearn saying that you're finished if you get beat in this fight. And I know what he's gone through over the last 3 years. But he's even said it, if he'd have got beaten that fight, he'd have probably jacked it in. So I had to give him an opportunity. And in the first combination that Guerfi throws, I'm looking at his reactions, I'm looking at what he's doing. He's doing what he does in the gym. And from that moment on, I knew he was going to win the fight. And when I'm talking to him in the corner, and when I'm talking to him at the end of the round, and I'm saying to him, you're going to get him, he will tire himself out trying to get rid of you. I wasn't saying it to boost his confidence and to keep him in the fight. I was telling him because I fully believed it. And he trusted in his defence. He trusted in what his ability is. That's all I've ever said to Jordan. He's an outstanding talent. And all I ever say to him is, just be Jordan Gill. Just do you. Just go out there and just express yourself and just trust in your own ability. Don't doubt yourself. Don't blow somebody else up to be King Kong. And in that moment, in a crisis, and when everything's going against you, the fact that he did that and he trusted himself, that ticks so many boxes for me in his development, because this is still a development. Listen, but people saying, oh, you get beaten this fight and it's over and this and all that bullshit, right? He's 27 years old. He's still learning about himself. The champions that I've worked with, majority of them, be it your McDonald twins, be it your Bellew, Ryan Rhodes, majority of them, they're all in the 30s when they won the titles and they started having the biggest fights and biggest nights. This kid's 27 years old, so he's still learning about himself. He's still getting that seasoning as a fighter. And the amount that he'll have not now just learned about himself, but the amount of belief that'll be in him now to push him on going forward in his career is massive. That fight is going into a fight, I don't want to see my fighters get hit. But after that fight and seeing what he went to and what he did and what he showed, for him as a fighter, because when you're a pretty boy boxer and you don't take much punishment, there's always people saying, oh yeah, but when he gets tough, what's he going to be like? He's going to fold, he's going to this, he's going to that. But not only, forget about what people think, you think to yourself, well, I'm not tough. Do you know what? He's never said this ever in his career with me, ever. On the day of the fight, we're in the hotel, and when we're getting his stuff together to come to a venue, he just looked at me and went, I'm tougher than what people think, And he's never said that. So I looked at him and went, yeah, I know you are. He went, no. I went, I'm a tough cunt, I went, I know you are. I said, but. And I said it quite flippantly. I went, but don't show me tonight, mate. I don't want to see that tonight. And we, yeah. And that's it. And then we went. Fast forward a few hours. He showed me that night, and he showed everyone that night. But I just thought, honestly, after the fight, I said in changing room, I said, you bastard. Do you know what I mean? Because he's never said anything. He's never actually ever said that. About that maybe, the fact that people don't think he's tough or people ever bothers him. But the fact that he actually said that in the hotel room and then went and fought like that, I just thought it was nuts.
What were your scorecards looking like in the moment leading up to the knockout?
I don't know, and I don't give a fuck, to be honest. I weren't thinking about that. I was just, when something comes along where it's a crisis, you have to manage it, and there comes a point, ride the crisis, get through the crisis, but then you've still got to win the fight, and that's what in the, I think it was the 9th round, I said to him, "That's right. I need to start winning this round now. I need to start winning." And he's slotting the shots in. Might have been the 8th. Once I knew that it was safe, and once I knew that Guerfi's energy levels were dropping. But as for scoring the fight, I think he lost the first, but I thought he won the next 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe, and then 6, 7, 8 were right off. Obviously, so it might have been a round down or level or something like that.
You mentioned crisis management. You'd obviously been working on that tactic of staying in the corner a lot, because we saw it with Derek Chisora as well.
But that's something that I think is important, is that you know how to get fighters through bad moments, because when you're fighting at top level, you can have bad moments. Anyone that thinks that it's all sweet and sunshine, all the way through your career because you're a nice boxer, you got a good defense, you don't get hit much. If you think that that's just going to happen all the way through, then you're going to come unstuck. So I just think that's what I like to prepare for. I try and prepare for every eventuality in a fight.
Is that a common tactic you are using in the gym? Obviously, like I say, we saw it a lot in the Chisora fight as well.
Ask me fighters.
Ask you as well. You're the.
No, I do. There's all sorts of stuff, and it's not just. It's not just great pad work. And there's all sorts of stuff that needs doing with boxing. I mean, I try and cover everything from the fighters, and we as fighters, that's what we try and do. Whether or not we can pull it off or not is another matter, but we try to cover all bases.
We'll move on to Chisora now. Do you have any idea of what's going to be next for him and when?
No.
He just decides kind of whenever?
No, I'm not. Nothing. I don't know.
Are you going to be continuing to train?
I don't know.
But one thing we can say, though, it'll be an exciting fight, whatever happens for him next, because it doesn't look like he's going to retire.
No, it doesn't look like he's going to retire. He still looks as though he wants to fight, so yeah.
Okay, well, we'll stick on the scene of heavyweights. Quickly about the AJ Usyk situation. It looks like it's going to be pushed back. Who do you think AJ should face in the meantime? He's obviously been very active, saying anyone.
There's two heads here for me. There's one as a fan. As a fan, I want to see Wilder, or I want to see Joe Joyce. I want to see them sort of fights. But then, as somebody that actually wants AJ to do well, and the Usyk's fight's the all-important fight. So, as somebody that wants AJ to have the best possible chance that he can have going in against Usyk, I think he should fight at southpaw, because that gives him a whole nother camp of southpaw preparation. You're not going to get an Usyk, but do you know what I mean? Just getting used to dealing with a southpaw, getting used to what you can pull off against a southpaw, you personally, what you can do against a southpaw, and drilling it. Gives him a whole camp, and then a fight under fighting conditions, and then another camp preparing for Usyk. So then with the previous fight, that'll be three camps back to back, working with southpaws for that end game, which is to get his belts back. So that, for me, gives him his best opportunity. So if you're going to talk about a southpaw, the only two southpaws really that are about are either Wallin, where people are going to go, oh, or Ortiz, where people are going to go, oh, it's a bit dangerous, but he's 140 years old. So there's no win. There's no win for him in this situation. Because if he fights Wilder or Joyce, then yes, it's great for that moment, that fight, but that's not going to get him any closer to beating Usyk. And so let's just say he beats a Joyce. People turn around and say, yeah, but Joyce hasn't done anything at world level yet anyway, and, well, he's slow, or this, that, what they like to talk about, Joe Joyce is a big problem for any heavyweight in division, because he can take a shot and he keeps on coming. So he's a problem, and he's heavy-handed. So people underestimate Joyce. But if AJ goes out and beats Joyce, people are just going to slate that and say, oh, that was nothing he was expected to. If he beats Ortiz, people are going to just turn around and say, oh, sorry, if he beats Wilder, people say, yeah, but it was damaged goods. It weren't any good anyway, and look what Fury did to him. Fury played with him, and you had a war or whatever with him, right? So he's going to get slagged off for that, and those two wins, either of those two wins, don't bring him any closer to beating Usyk, because Usyk's a completely different style, completely different problem. So for me, if I was his if I was his management and in the keep AJ winning or get his belts back business, then I'd be saying, you're going to get slated no matter what. Fuck everybody. Do what's going to get you the best opportunity of beating Usyk. Fight a southpaw. But me as a fan, because I've got nothing to do with AJ, then I'm like, yeah, Joyce or Wilder, please. I want to watch those.
For sure, I think it's a really good point you make about him fighting a southpaw to prepare for Usyk. On the Joe Joyce fight, I think it's a lot closer than people believe. How would you see that going?
That's an hard fight. Joe Joyce gets it with everything, but so far he's taken everything and he keeps on coming. Now, how long he can keep doing that, I don't actually know. And I don't know. I don't. AJ has showed tendencies of he can tire out, and somebody like Joyce that's relentless, and the weight of his shots. It's not just about somebody putting pressure on you. It's the weight of Joyce's shots. Whether it hits you on your chest, your body, your shoulders, or your face, you're feeling those shots. It's the momentum of him as he's rocking forward. You're knowing about it. He also showed in that Dubois fight that he can box as well. Do you know what I mean? He can box. He's a problem. He gives so many. He's got a style that's very hard to read as well, and you need to be. I think you need to be very, very switched on, and you need to have quite a high IQ in the ring generalship to adjust to that, adjust to his read and his movements and his style. And I'm not sure whether AJ's style makes that for an easy fight for him. It's more wear and tear. It's a hard fight. Even if he beats Joyce, it's a hard fight. I would say he beats Joyce, because I look at his legs now and his movement. He's got a lot more boxing ability than he used to do, and he's got his heavy hands. And when he's in that range, he puts his shots together really well. And Joyce gets hit too hard, too often. So I would favour AJ, but it's not an easy fight. People saying, "Oh, it's an easy fight." I don't see it as an easy fight. I think it's a fight that Joyce could win.
I'm going to have to push you for an answer. If you could name one fighter that you think, not that you think would be best for him, the person that you think he will fight.
I don't know. I don't know. Do you know what it is? The division just seems at the moment, obviously, it's just in limbo at the moment, and his career's in limbo at the moment, so it's kind of like they need to fight somebody. I just think he'll end up fighting Wallin, which is, yeah, I do. I think he'll end up. Can I see a Joyce fight being made? No. Do I think a Wilder fight is just going to be made like that as an interim fight? No. The Wilder fight's still a massive fight, so I don't think so. So yeah, I think something like Wallin will be made, which then everyone's just going to go, it's shit, which it is. It is, to be fair, but for him, it's probably the better of the options. I'd rather see Ortiz than Wallin, even though Ortiz is under 40 years old. I would rather see Ortiz because he's dangerous, he's more clever, and he'll look to old man AJ and walk him onto something. Usyk's always looking to outthink you, so it's similar, not similar, but there's a thought process there where it's not just a case of going there with just a southpaw stance and beat up the man who's just not on your level, but he's got a southpaw stance. But he's still got to be clever. Even at this age, you've got to be clever with what you do against Ortiz. Against Usyk, even though he needs to use his size and his dimension and his strength and his power against Usyk, he still needs to be clever in how he gets himself in them sort of positions. So I'd rather see him fight Ortiz, but I think it'll probably be Wally.
Very quickly, last of all, just on Fury Whyte, obviously it's sold out already. They're applying for 100,000. It's a great fight for British boxing.
Do you know what? I'm so happy because I've actually been asked through a company to go and spend the evening in their box at the fight, because I tried to get all the tickets. I went on to obviously I'm looking at what they are on Ticketmaster. I'm like, what? And so I didn't think I was going to go because I really want to go to the fight. It's going to be brilliant, and the build-up's going to be brilliant. Listen, people writing off Whyte and saying he's got no chances. Listen, he has. He can punch. He's a fighter. He will give it absolutely everything. He'll want to have it as a street fight. Tyson Fury, you don't know what you're going to get. You either get... Well, it can either look brilliant, Wilder 2, even Wilder 1, and Klitschko. But then the rest of his fights, he looks all right. And then you look at him against Wallin, and you look at was it Wallin when he was cut and everything? And then you look at him in the last Wilder fight, which although it was amazing, a fantastic fight, technically it was very, very poor. So every heavyweight in there's got something about itself. It's going to look at that fight and think, well, if that's the Fury I get, I'll fight him. Do you know what I mean? So you don't know what you're going to get. So it's a good fight, and don't count Dillian Whyte out. Obviously, you've got to say that Fury's a favourite, but I don't get this where they're just writing Dillian off.
Last question for you. Why do you believe Dillian Whyte isn't attending the press conferences?
Because they don't want to. Why did Fury turn up in a Batman suit once? Because he wanted to. These two guys have got massive characters, but also they've got that much pull that really a promoter can't really say to them, do this and do that. If it's not in a contract, then they'll do what they want to do. And if Dillian's busy preparing for his fight, then he will prepare his fight and not come out of Portugal or wherever he's at. And if he fancies it, he will do. If he don't, he won't. But he'll do what he has to do. But also, I'm hearing things about things that he's not particularly happy with and things. So maybe that's a bit of that. Unless you're privy to their camps and it's just speculation. But ultimately, Dillian and Tyson will both do whatever they want to do.
It has to get in Tyson's head a little bit.
Mate, do you really?
His reaction in the press, I didn't see it at all, but it has to.
But why is that going to get into his head? Fury can talk normally 1 second and then flare up and then go back to being talk. It doesn't affect him. That don't mean that, on fight night he's going to fight like this because he's reacting to that. That's bullshit. It won't affect him. Might piss him off for that moment because he was looking forward to having a bit of banter and a bit of back and forth, and now he's like a bit pissed off because I've just got to fucking talk on my own. So that might piss him off at that moment, but it's not getting in his head and things like that.
Really appreciate your time, Dave.
Cheers, mate. Nice one.